Welcome to another edition of the Roundtable. My name is Paul Dingerman. Glad to have you along. We had the honor about a month and a half ago to have our new congressional representative from the U.S. U.S. District number 10. I'll get it right. I'll start this over again, though. Paul Mitchell, any event?
Good to be here,
Welcome
Paul.
back, sir, as I stumble through the open. Nice to see you, and I wanted to touch base with you and ask you about your tour of the Oval Office.
That was
Saw
cool.
you there.
I'd never been to the White House before. It was exciting to go to the White House. Even more excited to go to the White House for a bill signing on a bill that I was a lead co-sponsor on. It was a great opportunity to have a chance again to talk to the president. I appeared in two rallies with the now president during the general election, so to see him again and chat even briefly. It was a big crowd, but it was good to see him.
Yeah, it was a good crowd.
And for me, exciting. As I said, I'd never been to the White House, even as a tourist, never mind as a legislator, so it was cool.
So I've been to Jerry Ford's museum in Grand Rapids. Is it about the same size? It is exactly the same size?
It's similar size.
Similar size?
It's kind of hard to get an idea of size when first there's a lot of people around, that type of thing. And it's like the first time I saw the floor of the House of Representatives, you look at it and say, well, it looks so much bigger on TV.
Right.
It's actually not all that large compared to what it looks like for like a State of the Union or something. Right. So you're kind of hard to get that impression of size. But more importantly, the West Wing, it is an impressive thing when you realize it's what you're walking into. And you're walking into a place that is the leader of the free world. Yeah. It's just an astonishing thing. So it was a lot of fun. Another highlight. Oh, a great experience. And I have another bill that passed the House that hopefully will pass the Senate in the near future around regulatory reform that, assuming it can pass the Senate, will go to the president. I think he'll sign that, and that will be wonderful to go back again. So if I can do that in the first year even in office, that would be a great achievement.
You're back in the district on the break, the Easter break.
Nice to be back.
Back to Washington pretty quick. You just came from the Velasic facility. What you been doing when you've been home?
Well, we've got, this week alone, I think we have, they keep adding stuff, so I think we've got 27 meetings or events around the district. Went to Senior Center for lunch today, around lunchtime, and talked to a bunch of constituents. Before that, I was at Lapeer Industries. They're a big employer in Lapeer County. They're growing. Velasic is growing, planning some projections. They're gearing up for the summer. Talking to you today, and then we have tonight the annual arts awards for the artists that will go to the Capitol. Their painting will go up in the Capitol. Painting or photograph will go in the Capitol for the next year. So we're doing that this evening up in Port Huron. It's just kind of a typical day when you're back in the district. 13 of the last 15 weeks we've been in Washington, so they haven't had a lot of time back home in the district. And by in Washington, I'm talking about either 4 or 5 days a week we've been there. It's been that jam-packed. And
you've got staff here, so people can always get in contact with you and with your staff if they've got something they want to talk to you about.
Absolutely. We've got district staff. The district office is in Shelby. Information's on the website, and as always, there's a full-time staff here that handles constituent issues. Recently, for example, we helped a Vietnam veteran that never got their medals to get their medals. He's older. He's having some health challenges, so helped him get his medals. We've helped people with issues with VA. We've helped people with issues with IRS, a whole series of things. That's what the job is. A big part of the job in Congress, especially district office, is to help constituents. It's their last hope when things are just a mess. And that's part of the job, and the staff's pretty enthusiastic about it.
Pretty exciting stuff when you can solve those problems, too. I mean, it's a nice smile and a nice thank you.
Most of them are solvable, not all of them. Sometimes it's just intractable because of the issue they've gotten themselves into, but more often than not, communication helps.
Let's talk about some other subjects. You've been very active in Great Lakes arenas. We're talking about the nuclear dump up in Canada there, and where are we at on that?
Well, I don't know if there's been any movement on that. There's more inertia on addressing the issue. I believe the last time there was a conversation between the Trump administration and the Trudeau administration, it was raised as we have a problem here. I think there's a desire to be responsible to the Great Lakes. So we will continue to push on that so that, in fact, we get some attention out of Canada that there are better alternatives. Similarly, I joined as one of the leaders of a letter that opposed eliminating funding for the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative. The president put in an initial draft or overview of the budget that eliminated funding.
Scared a lot of people.
It did, and I think it just reflects the lack of understanding of what the GLRI does and its importance. And that was a bipartisan letter that went from multiple states. To be honest, I forgot the number of people that actually signed it, the number of representatives that signed it, to make a point that no, we can't defund this. That's just not a productive thing for the Great Lakes and protecting our water supply in the United States.
So do you think that that will come back up once the budgets, you start talking about budgets?
Oh, I'm certain it will come back up when we talk about budgets in the 2018 budget. I'm confident that will be one of several issues we'll talk about.
Do you feel confident that you will be able to save some of that money?
Oh, I think absolutely. I mean, how much of it I can't tell you right now. We're pretty early on in the budget process. Another item that was pretty controversial in the initial draft was funding of the National Institute of Health.
Right.
Cancer research, Alzheimer's research, all those things that we can't undergo massive reductions in the NIH when in fact that has a significant impact on the cost of health care in this country. So that's another area that there's an initial proposal. I think you view the Trump administration as the art of the deal, I guess, which is they're coming with their version. Okay, now what are you willing to do? There will be some cost cuts in some areas, I believe. One of the things I proposed was an initial budget process was a 10% cut in all administrative staff in departments, not military personnel, not Customs and Border Protection, but the administrative staff sitting in cubicles thinking they have the right regulations or guidelines. If we can't cut 10% of that overhead, then we've got a serious problem in Washington. I think we can.
You were touching there on health. Where are we at on the health bill?
In fact, I got an update on that. A couple of days ago, I spoke with the Deputy Whip of the House about where we're at, and just got an email today on it. There's still working through some additional amendments, ideas to bring together a coalition on what will solve or we believe will address the problem. I think we'll get something done in the next few weeks. We have to remember it took a year to pass the Affordable Care Act when it passed. It's taken 5 years to implement most of it. It's not even fully implemented. So the idea that magically in 12, 13 weeks you should wave a magic wand and suddenly we pass something, while some may argue that's their version, it's not how legislation is done. It certainly wasn't how ACA came to be. We'll come up with an answer. It takes some time, not without some suffering, whimpering and screaming, I'm sure, but we'll get there.
I think as you stand away and you look at what's happening in Washington, it appears that like Trump walked in and he was going to do like a businessman and just make some decisions, and it's a learning curve for both sides, for the House and the Senate to get to know who he is and for him to get to know who they are.
I think what we're seeing is someone that came in with bold ideas, and bold ideas for change. And that's a good thing in Washington, and frankly, a welcome thing given the way things have happened for a long time. We need some bold change. The idea of how to get there is still a learning curve for him and a lot of other people. Even in fact, I would honestly admit the Republican majority in the House, which for a number of years have been the opposition party. There's a difference between being an opposition party and governing. Governing requires that people work together. It requires that people that all kinds of ideas decide they've got to coalesce around something, and maybe their idea isn't the perfect idea, but move it forward. And getting people to understand working together will get something done. Not working together means you get stuck in a hole. That's the challenge that's going on a little bit in healthcare, and I think we'll see the same thing. I know you want to talk about taxes. I think we'll see the same challenge around taxes.
You certainly have a unique perspective because you're brand new to the whole operation. But you come from business.
35 years.
And you're talking about the department or the party of no. You never experienced that. You were more progressive and a businessman for years and years before you got there.
Well, I always told my management staff, I told my teenage kids as they were growing up, no decision is a decision. Things happen in the world around you. While you sit there contemplating whatever, thinking you've got the perfect idea, the world moves. Not making a decision is generally doesn't solve the problem for you or make it better. Often it gets worse. That's how I ran a business. That's how I led people for a long period of time. It doesn't mean you make stupid decisions, but you're willing to compromise. You have to be willing to do that. And you get a group of people that will coalesce around an idea, then move forward with that. It may not be what you think is the best idea, but keep working at it if you think you can get better. It's been an interesting experience watching people come from a different perspective. Well, it has. But one thing I've learned about is, one thing I've learned a long time ago is, first, people say I say it too frequently, it is what it is. Now what are you going to do about it? You can't change what exists in terms of the structure of Congress, how it works. The question is how you make it work as efficiently as you can to achieve changes you want to move forward, rather than sit there and howl at the moon about it. It is what it is. Now what am I going to do? And that's how I've approached it and been reasonably successful already.
You alluded to taxes. What's happening there?
Well, they're underway and looking at a variety of formats for tax reform, how to achieve that. There's a lot of discussion about this. There's an op-ed today in one of the papers in either New York or Times or the Wall Street Journal on tax reform from some business people. Some argue that we should just do a business tax reform coupled with infrastructure. I don't believe that's the best route. I think we need to do comprehensive tax reform that addresses tax burdens and the tax system for all Americans, not just business. For people like my dad that went to work on the line at General Motors and paid his taxes, we need to address tax reform for all of them. That may be harder to do. That may take a lot more struggle, but Americans deserve that, and I've expressed that to leadership. As you know, I serve as a member of leadership in the House. I've expressed it clearly that we need to do comprehensive tax reform, even if it's difficult, because anything short of that is unacceptable to the American people.
What's your list of committees?
Education and workforce, which has been a great opportunity. As you know, I spent my entire career in that area,
right.
So for me, that's my wheelhouse. I
right.
enjoy that. I'm on transportation and infrastructure, and was obviously very involved in that in Michigan. I'm the vice chair of the aviation subcommittee, working on infrastructure issues, and then oversight and government reform, which is a third committee. I got a phone call from the majority leader telling me that they'd issued a waiver. I didn't know what that was. Apparently only serve on 2 committees, but they said we issued a waiver and you get to serve on a third, oversight and government reform, which looks at a lot of regular oversight issues, how the government functions. I offered to apologize if I offended someone, and they still have, but it's meant it's a bigger workload, but it's also an opportunity to look at some issues within with how government makes decisions, how they're implementing programs. So it's an opportunity to have some oversight on that.
That was Representative Chafee, right?
Chaffetz.
Chaffetz,
yep.
And he announced yesterday or the day before that he's going to step down.
He did, and he announced today he may not even serve his full term in the House.
Really?
Which, when I left Washington, I saw him that day. He didn't provide any indication that he was considering the alternatives. But as he said in his discussion about it, he's been away from home 1,500 nights. He stays in his office.
It's a tough job.
He's got younger children. I mean, it is a tough job. I mean, the schedule we've had in Washington is different than it was before this year. And as I told my spouse as we got into it, well, it's a few days this week, then a few days the following, then a week back in the district. The schedule's very different. I've got a 6, almost 7-year-old at home, and he says, Dad, when are you leaving? When are you coming back? Now they've come out to Washington some to spend time with me, but it is a challenge, and more of a challenge now than it has been the last 7 to 8 years.
There's lots of conversation going on about what's going on in the world. I mean, how do we put our handle around it, our arms around it? There's just, every time you turn on a television or pick up the newspaper, there's another crisis, it seems like.
First we have to recognize that newspapers, some social media, with 24-hour news, Paul, they've got to sell something. It's got to be exciting. So everything's a crisis. We do have challenges, and part of the challenges are based on the rest of the world figuring out how the United States is going to portray itself, what they would consider to be acceptable conduct in the world, and what the ramifications will be. For example, the decision of the president in Syria after the president of Syria, and all we can tell, decided to use chemical weapons against his own population. That's heinous. That's ugly. And to say, you know what, we've told you before, and we mean it, to decide to level a airfield is the appropriate response. I know people are concerned about it, but I think it's the right thing to do, and I think it sends a message. The idea that they're operating out of tunnels in Afghanistan and creating a safe haven for ISIS, and as a result ending up with a Green Beret killed, to send in a massive bomb and say, okay guys, in case you didn't understand, there's a new sheriff in town. I believe Donald Trump's approach to world diplomacy is one of, you can deal with Tillerson, the Secretary of State, good cop, or you can deal with Mattis, bad cop, you choose. But I suggest Tillerson might be more fun. I know people are concerned about North Korea, but we have dealt with North Korea for a long period of time of see if we can't cajole them and offer them something, and then they ask for more. Someone to say, get China on board. And it appears China is being more active to tell North Korea, hey, knock it off.
Maybe we could send them Dennis Rodman permanently.
Oh, there's a number of nominees I'd have to send them currently, but that would be entirely inappropriate. It's not the way America functions. We could see if, you remember during the election, all kinds of people were talking about moving out of the United States if Trump won.
Go to Canada.
We could see if we can get them one-way tickets. They could join. But I think the administration is outlining their perspective on what is acceptable world conduct, what we'll accept in the world, and that is, as the leader of the world, our responsibility. No, we're not the policemen of the world, but there's some level of things we will not accept. The thing we need to be concerned about is the risk of a massive famine in Africa this summer. The numbers are getting scary. The lack of rain, the unrest there, and it's something that isn't getting enough attention right now in the United States or around the world. And it's one of the issues I will talk with leadership about next week is what are we going to do about Sudan and some of those areas that just are facing massive humanitarian costs if we don't decide as part of a coalition what we're going to do to get aid there, even if we have to do it around some governments that aren't exactly helpful, because we can't allow millions of people to die, and that could be the case.
Infrastructure committee that you're on, and you're on two of them with the highways plus the air.
Plus aviation, yes, I am.
So, and both of them need so much work.
It's a lot. I mean, it's one thing about joining Congress has been an interesting education for me is running a business. You had a kind of roadway, you had an alley in which you worked. Any given day in Congress, I've got what's going on in terms of workforce. I've got budget issues we talked about, being conversant and understanding tax issues. What are we doing about infrastructure? The amount of information you have to absorb and be conversant in if you're going to be effective truly is massive. For me, I was a policy geek. I enjoy the work. There are days I go home and warm up a pizza in the oven at 9 o'clock at night. Sit there. Well, I read and then fall asleep with papers on my my face and wake up at 11:30 at night and go to bed. But I wouldn't change anything in the world. It's a great opportunity. It's a great honor.
Oh, and you're relishing it. I can see that you're enjoying it. It's wearing well on you, sir.
There's a whole lot worse ways to spend time. I can assure you. And I'm already. I mean, I've already been part of a bill signing in my first 90 days. I've had a bill passed the House. There are members that don't have that happen for a couple of years.
That's correct.
And it's because of willingness to work hard and work with people. And that, if I can start making a difference, that's why I went there, is to make a difference that we can all be proud of in this country and move the country forward. And for me, that opportunity still excites me. And the day it stops exciting me is the day I decided to go home.
Did we miss anything today?
Well, there's a whole range of things we're working on, but then you'd be a 24-hour news channel.
Well, that'd be all right. Well, I don't want to take anybody's job from Fox there that just retired.
Well, I hear there's openings, but I hear there's openings over there. I don't know. We'll see how that shakes out.
Right.
But there's change going on.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Paul.
Paul Mitchell, the congressional representative from District 10. I got it right.
You did.
At the end, on the close. That's about it for this edition of the Roundtable. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, I'm Paul Dingerman. See you soon.